Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another Oscar prediction update. This is the October update, so happy Halloween, happy spooky season. Uh, and we are currently, I think, just getting done with the fall festival season, which means for me, I should start getting screeners pretty soon, not to brag. But I am very, very excited to get a look at a lot of these movies. There are some films that have opened in New York and LA, but have not opened near me, unfortunately. So there's a bunch of stuff that I still have yet to see, but I'm really looking forward to seeing. Uh, there has been a little bit of news, a little bit of updates that I will uncover with you. But for now, let's just take a look, starting with the category of Best Documentary Feature. Not a whole lot has changed here. It's still the same five nominees, but I now believe that All the Beauty and the Bloodshed is in the best position to win. Uh, I don't know about Fire of Love. I moved that slightly down, but everything else is still the same. And of course, in this year, in the most recent years, we have had documentary frontrunners that get snubbed, and I don't know if that's going to happen this year, but I don't know. All Beauty and the Bloodshed. I haven't seen it. I haven't seen any of these actually, but that's the one that seems to be getting the best praise. And I don't really feel like saying too much more because I really don't know that much about this category. But I do have quite a lot to say about the category of Best International Feature because there was a big announcement that kind of shocked film Twitter. RRR is not going to be India's submission for Best International Feature Film. Now, this announcement came days after I finally watched the movie, and I was convinced that it was going to be our winner, but no such luck, because apparently India doesn't know what they have. Um, Now, they've discussed that they're going to try to push the movie in other categories, and we will see just how much they're able to get away with. But it is going to be tricky, but we saw it just last year with Parallel Mothers that just because uh, your country doesn't submit a film doesn't mean it can't go all the way in a different category. And the movie certainly does have a lot of passion behind it, so we'll see just how far it can go. With that being said, All Quiet on the Western Front, this was one of the big stories of the past month. This movie premiered to much, much better reviews than people thought, and now people are talking about it as a Best Picture contender. And to me, even though I haven't seen the film, it just makes so much sense to me. Like, seeing the reviews that this movie got was like all the puzzle pieces coming into place because I knew that Netflix had to have a movie in the Best Picture conversation, and it was looking like they were running out of options for what that was going to be. But now All Quiet fits that bill, and it also fits a different bill because for the past couple of years we've had a non-English language film in Best Picture, and now All Quiet fills that bill too. Now, the rest of the category is looking pretty much the same. I will mention Klondike. So Klondike is Ukraine's submission, and it specifically deals with the Russia-Ukraine conflict, not the one brewing right now, but the one that's been brewing for a while. And I think, given the fact that Russia is not submitting a film, that they're boycotting this year, I think, given the news of everything going on in the world, Klondike is definitely in a really good position to get the nomination. And if it's good enough, might be something that contends for the win. But as of right now, I think All Quiet on the Western Front is shaping up to be the international film of the year. Best Animated Feature Film. Now, not a whole lot has changed here. I still have the top five in the same order that I did before. The only change I made at all was to replace my number 10, Apollo 10.5, with Puss in Boots 2, because supposedly Apollo 10.5 is not considered animated, even though it's rotoscoped, and there's a whole weird situation brewing there, but it wasn't going to get nominated anyway. But there are a couple of interesting news outlets about some of these films. I think Pinocchio, My Father's Dragon, and Wendell and Wild have now had official premieres. And with Wendell and Wild, people are like, oh, the animation is amazing. The story is not the best, but it's definitely going to get nominated if they can campaign it hard enough. So I think safe nomination, not going to win. My Father's Dragon, people really like it. People are like, oh, it's really cute, it's really sweet. But it does, having seen the trailer now, it doesn't seem to be as grand as something like Wolfwalkers. So I don't think this is going to be Cartoon Saloon's Makeup Oscar. Hopefully that's coming in the future. But Pinocchio, as I record this video, the review embargo for Pinocchio just dropped, and we're getting the first samplings of reviews. So I'm pretty confident that it's definitely going to be our animated feature winner. With that said, some people are a little optimistic about how well this movie can do on the day, and I will admit, I've been burned too many times by predicting animated films to do really well outside of animated feature, so for the moment, I just have it in animated feature, song, and score. Outside of that, Turning Red's definitely still safe for the nomination, and Strange World, we'll have to wait and see. Somehow I don't think it's going to be great, and if it disappoints, The Bad Guys is right there, and that movie really does have a devoted fan base, so we will have to wait and see. Next up is Best Sound. Now, I still have Top Gun Maverick in the #1 spot, but I have heard a lot of really good things about All Quiet on the Western Front, and if people really want to give that movie an award outside of International Feature, it could happen. And then Avatar, Everything Everywhere, Babylon, okay, that still makes sense to me. Woman King, I don't know how well it's gonna do. I mean, I've seen it, and it's quite good, and it seems to be getting really strong reviews, and it's considered a box office success, but it's kind of teetering around in a couple different categories, because there is the question of, well, how many action films is the Academy really going to recognize? There's quite a lot of big action movies in the conversation already, so exactly how well it's going to do, we're not really sure. And I am kind of going to speed past this bit a little bit. Again, if I'm going too fast for you, you can always pause. Best Original Song. So Lady Gaga is still in the #1 position. We now know that Pinocchio has a song. Pinocchio actually has several songs. It's apparently a musical. I don't know the name of the songs in it, but if the movie's really well liked, surely one of them will get nominated. And then Keep Rising from The Woman King. So I have this at #3, and a lot of people don't seem to have this, which kind of confuses me, because the movie is really well liked, and it's a good end credit song. It seems like the sort of thing that would be nominated, but we'll have to wait and see. This Is a Life, I still think is going to be the classic, the Pies Lullaby type nomination of this is a Best Picture nominee, and song is kind of weak, so we'll put it in. But people have pointed out to me that just because a Best Picture nominee has a song, that doesn't automatically mean it's getting in. Boyhood had a song, Parasite has a song, Coda even, so you gotta be careful. But I think this year is not looking particularly strong, and Everything Everywhere is so well liked that I think it should be safe to get on. And then in that last slot, I have moved Not To my #5. And it's going to be interesting, because obviously RRR is not up for International Feature, but that means they can do all the pushing in original song. And yes, it is still a non-English language song, but we have gotten some non-English language songs in here, like EOC and Dos Oruguitas, and for being a non-English language song, it is super catchy, and the scene when it plays in the movie is one of the highlights of a film with a lot of memorable scenes. Plus, I know this is not how they judge things, but if it did get nominated, it would be one of the greatest live Oscar performances ever. Oh man, I would love to see that so bad. But then, okay, this is killing me here. At #6 is Applause from Tell It Like a Woman, which from what I understand is a Diane Warren song. Now, it would make sense to have this in my top 5 because Diane Warren gets on for everything, but there are a couple things holding me back. One of which is she is supposed to finally receive her honorary Oscar this year, and that might make the music branch stop awarding her for these tiny movies that nobody's heard of. Plus, on top of that, the song is being sung by Lady Gaga, who already has a song in the race, and I don't know, I feel like one Gaga song is going to get more support than the other. It definitely still could happen. Warren is really loved, but I don't know. I finally moved Nobody Like You out of the top 5. Even for someone like me who loves Turning Red so much, it was always kind of weird to me to have Nobody Like You so high because it is a fairly basic pop song. It's almost a parody of pop songs the way it's used in the movie. It could definitely still happen, but I don't feel like Disney's going to push it too hard. And then everything else, I will mention Matilda the Musical has premiered to pretty strong reviews, and we know that there is a new song at the end of the film, so it could happen. It could happen. Best Original Score. Now, okay, so I still have, 1 second, please. Still have Fabelmans at number 1, and I'm not confident about it. Supposedly, it's John Williams' second to last score. His last is going to be the new Indiana Jones movie, but this is his last score with Spielberg, and I do have to ask the question, they're definitely just going to nominate him, but from what I've heard from people who have seen the film, the score is not that memorable. So I definitely going to get nominated, probably not going to win, but I don't really know what else to put there. It could be Women Talking, which I understand has a pretty strong review by Hildur. I will never learn how to pronounce her last name, the woman who did Joker. And then Babylon is Justin Hurwitz, Pinocchio is Desplat, although the fact that Pinocchio is apparently a musical does make me question a little bit, like, how effective is the score outside of the songs, but that hasn't stopped movies like Encanto or Mary Poppins Returns from getting nominated, or La La Land from winning. So it's Desplat, it's Del Toro, there should be enough good stuff there. And then I have The Woman King at number 5. I think this is a pretty good score, and it's Terence Blanchard, who got a nomination recently for The Five Bloods. He is pretty well liked, so I have it getting in. And then everything else, okay, Empire of Light. That movie has fallen off hard in a lot of categories, and I feel kind of bad for it because when people saw it, they were like, it's good, but then they saw a whole bunch of other movies at the festivals that they thought were great, and Empire of Light kind of got lost in the shuffle. And I still think Empire of Light could be a big contender, but evidently it's not as memorable as some of the other movies this year, and if this ends up being a really, really great year for movies, then that could get lost in the shuffle. I've said that to the term again. Really keeping an eye out for Everything Everywhere, just because the movie could get on in a lot of different categories, and the score is pretty good in that. And then, yeah, that's all I have to say about that category. Moving on to Best Visual Effects. Okay, so still Avatar, still Everything Everywhere, still Batman. Yeah, it's still the same top 5. Actually, it's the same top 10. I didn't change a thing. Pinocchio, it's going to be really, really interesting to see if Pinocchio can get on. I don't want to jinx it. Don't want to jinx it for an animated film, but it is looking pretty likely, especially because Doctor Strange, I think people have kind of moved past that movie, but it could still happen. Yeah. Let's move on from that and talk about Best Makeup and Hairstyling. So, still The Whale, number 1, Batman, Elvis. I've added All Quiet on the Western Front, because apparently that has a lot of good, like, injury makeup, and, let me actually fix that tiny mistake there. Yeah, I really don't know, like, how this category is going to shake out, because I could see a number of different things happen, but yeah, we all know the whale's winning, and then everything else. I haven't really changed a whole lot in this particular category, so yeah. Do I have more to say about best costume design? Uh, I mean, not that much. I have Chevalier and the Fabelmans switched places, but Tilda the Musical could come close as like a non-best picture fantasy comedy thing that shows up. Sometimes that does happen, but there are a couple of different films that aren't really in the best picture conversation that could happen. Fabelmans, I think, is interesting because that would be like a Joker nomination. Like, oh, we nominate the movie everywhere else, we'll nominate it for costumes, even though it's not the most impressive costumes. Yeah, I almost put Everything Everywhere in this just because of Joe Boo's costumes, but I think that's kind of pushing the limit of what it can get on for. But Women Talking does have some nice costumes from what I've seen. So, not a whole lot to say there. In production design, it's the same top four, and then All Quiet on the Western Front gets that fifth slot. Wow. Again, I feel like all the points I could make are points that I've made on other videos, so if you want to go back and watch them. But Babylon is old Hollywood, Avatar is Pandora world building, Elvis is very flashy, Woman King has some great production design in it, and All Quiet is a war movie that has like destroyed war zones and trenches and stuff. That's my justification. Okay, I'm sorry. Let's move on to cinematography now. Adding All Quiet in there, Empire of Light. Is this the one nomination I still have for Empire of Light? I think it is. It's Roger Deakins. It makes sense. I did seriously debate putting Top Gun Maverick in the top 5, but ultimately decided against it. There is some interesting stuff here. I'm going to mention Tar here just so I have something to talk about. That's a movie that, from what I understand, could just be Spencer, could just be Blanchett, and nothing else. Because people do like it, but I think are a little bit divisive on what the film is trying to say, and does it need to be the length that it is. I think it's... Blanchett's getting nominated, we know this, but exactly what it does outside of Blanchett is going to be really, really interesting to see throughout the year. And in Best Editing, top 4 is the same. I added All Quiet. Sort of a running theme here. I think All Quiet is going to be a really, really big movie. I took Women Talking out of it. I feel kind of bad there, but it's going to be a stacked top 5. And Everything Everywhere's win is absolutely guaranteed. I feel like I can say that at this point. Okay, you know what? Let's get to adapted screenplay, because I actually do have stuff to say about this category. This category is really, really barren. I think we all know Women Talking is going to win, and then The Whale makes sense as a number 2 because it's a likely Best Picture contender, and then everything else... I moved Glass Onion up, even though it feels weird, just because everyone else had it in their top 3. And it's like, well, the first one got nominated, it's a weak field, why wouldn't it get on? And then, All Quiet, I know it's not like the most traditional dialogue-heavy thing, and sometimes the tech players don't get in for screenplay, but in a year as weak as this, I could see it happening. And then, Till. So I'm going to talk about Till in more detail when I get to the Best Actress category, but I think people respect this just enough that it can get nominated. I don't actually know if it qualifies as adapted, but I hope it does, because it's not going to make it an original. I don't know. It's just, I really... If Till wants to go far as a Best Picture contender and as a Best Actress contender, it needs this nomination, but it's not going to get it if it's an original. And now, She Said is really close. From what I understand, that movie's premiered, and the reactions seem to be, oh, it's fine. It's fine. It's a by-the-numbers journalism movie that doesn't surprise you. It gives you exactly what you think you're going to get. And it could still be nominated, but I just feel like in a year when so many movies are really big deals, like this one is sort of going to get left on the wayside. And then White Noise still getting mixed reviews. People don't entirely know what to think. I came so close to putting Del Toro's Pinocchio in my top 5. Because I was like, ooh, like, it's a classic story that everyone knows being reinvented for a new generation and reinterpreted with a lot of the stuff that Del Toro is doing. Like, so much of the talk about this movie is what Del Toro is doing with the story. It would kind of make sense as a screenplay nominee. But I also know that they're not kind to animated films, and only one non-Pixar animated film has ever gotten nominated in screenplay, and it was Shrek. So, it could happen. Keep your eye on Pinocchio in adapted screenplay, because, oh boy, it definitely could happen. And then Bones and All and The Sun, I don't think either of those are going to happen. In Best Original Screenplay, I do want to apologize for what I said about Banshees of Inisherin, because previously I sort of made statements that, oh, they're definitely going to put that in original, in adapted. They're going to put it in adapted instead of original because it's based on an unproduced play. If that led you askew, I'm sorry, because it turns out that, oh, McDonough took the title Banshees of Inisherin, but nothing in the finished film has anything to do with the play he was going to do that had that title. So this is an original screenplay, and it's one that's going to get nominated. So now we have an interesting situation where original screenplay is much more crowded than adapted. I think Everything Everywhere and Fabelmans are definitely top 2. Banshees gets on, Babylon makes sense. And then The Woman King, I debated, but I think if that movie is going to get on in quite a lot of places, screenplay does make a certain amount of sense. Triangle of Sadness, I think it's going to be close, but I think that movie might just be a little bit too weird to connect with the Academy as a whole. Plus, it'd be a film that's only competing in screenplay and nowhere else, from what I understand. And then I took Bros out, and I feel really bad about taking Bros out. But I think that movie, in order for the mainstream comedy to get on, like, if it doesn't do well at the box office and it isn't like a big audience favorite, I don't think it's gonna make that big of a dent in this category. And I feel bad for saying that, but and then I don't have much more to say about the rest of the category. Oh, but I do have a lot to say about Best Supporting Actress. So, we all went into this year with the assumption that Michelle Williams was a lock to win Best Supporting Actress for The Fabelmans. It was a done deal. And when we saw the movie, it became even more of a done deal. Like, absolutely nothing in the world could stop her from winning Best Supporting Actress. And then Universal just had to do it. They just had to do it. They were like, and we're putting her in lead. And the sound you heard was the entire collective film Twitter slapping their forehead at the same time. This is such a stupid move. And initially, I was in denial, and I was just going to keep her in number 1 for supporting anyway. But the more time has passed, the more I'm like, okay, fine, I'll take her out. So now she's in number 6, because she can still get nominated. By all means, she can still get nominated. We saw this with The Reader, we saw it with Whale Rider, and we saw it very recently with Lakeith Stanfield for Judas and the Black Messiah. The Academy doesn't have to do what people tell them to do when it comes to category placement. I think we're really going to have to wait and see, first of all, when the film comes out, what the general reaction is, if people think she's a lead or supporting. And then, once critics and guild awards weigh in. So, I'm going to have to update some of this stuff. I'm sorry. But, okay, so I have Jessie Buckley in number 1 because she's supposedly a big standout in women talking, and she just got nominated last year. And I also have Claire Foy in there. But I'll tell you what's really interesting is the situation with The Whale. Because when that movie initially premiered, it felt like everybody was talking about Sadie Sink's performance. Um, and Sadie Sink was like, oh, she's the supporting actress who's getting nominated. And now it seems like people have pivoted to talking about Hong Chow. And without having seen the film, I can't exactly tell you why. But I think there's this idea of, oh, Sadie Sink's character is really unlikable, which doesn't usually stop people from getting in supporting actress, but it could happen. And Chow apparently has more Beatty scenes. Plus, everyone's pointing out that she came really close to getting nominated for Downsizing. So, I'm not really sure what to think at this point, but it could happen. I think Stephanie Sue is very, very grateful that the category switch up has meant she has more room to get in, and then Carrie Condon for Banshees of Inisherin makes sense. But it is interesting here because right now I have Jessie Buckley and Claire Foy being like the two women from the same movie that both get nominated, because we see that pretty frequently. But Hong Chow and Sadie Sink could also be the two women from the same movie that get nominated. And maybe don't underestimate Stephanie Sue and Jamie Lee Curtis. This is the first time I'm adding her into my predictions, but if people really, really love Everything Everywhere, and they do, I have seen a lot of people banging the drum for Jamie Lee Curtis, and I sort of thought, oh, she won't really be able to get in because Stephanie Sue has a much more prominent role, but Jamie Lee Curtis is a really respected actress who's been in the industry for a long time and has never gotten a nomination, so it could happen. I'm not gonna write it out. It could happen. Now, Best Supporting Actor is basically the same as when we left it last time. Not a whole lot has changed. Ke Huy Quan is still like the front runner, but there's no one else that's like really making a strong enough case as deserving to win. So he's sort of our placeholder. Now, Brad Pitt at this point has moved out of the top 5 because of some recent controversy surrounding him. I still think he could get nominated if he handles the controversy well, but I'm not going to hold my breath. The top 5 do make a certain amount of sense to me. I don't know if Ke Huy Quan is going to be our winner, but we'll have to wait and see if someone else has a stronger narrative. And then everyone else, I don't know. Ooh, I'm predicting Fabelmans to get in supporting actor twice. I didn't even recognize that. So, Women Talking get in supporting actress twice, Fabelmans get in supporting actor twice. Outside of that, not a whole lot to say. Oh, I added Woody Harrelson for Triangle of Sadness. I'm saying these things like I'm surprised by what I did, but I'm not. I'm just like saying these as though. No, I'm okay. I'm gonna move on to lead actress because this is a category where so much stuff is going on. So I have made the decision to tentatively put Cate Blanchett in the number 1 position because at least I know she's getting nominated. She's Cate Blanchett and she's getting some of the best reviews of her career. She's going to get on. Whether or not she wins, I think is largely going to depend on how well the rest of the film is received overall outside of her, but it is definitely still possible. Blanchett is so loved, and she's the kind of person who it does make sense to give a 3rd Oscar to. And then there's Danielle Deadwyler. Now, the reviews for this movie have been insane, and specifically surrounding her. They're like, this could be our Best Actress winner. This is a winning performance. This would be the 2nd performance after Halle Berry, a black actress winning Best Actress. It would be huge. But there's an important asterisk there, and that is people need to see this movie. I was talking about this movie with my parents the other night, and I was like, oh, there's this new movie about the murder of Emmett Till, and my mom and dad are like, yeah, let's not watch that. And I think a lot of people are going to have the same reaction. But the people who do see the movie are like, it's really, really powerful, and she's really phenomenal in it. So I don't doubt that the performance really is that good, but she definitely has a lot of obstacles to overcome, mainly getting people to see her movie. If the film does well outside of her, which I think it could, then it really improves her chances. But from what I understand, the performance is such a powerhouse, it may be difficult to ignore. But we'll just have to wait and see. Now, I've decided to move Michelle Yeoh to number 2, unfortunately, and Yeoh also can still win. Like, I think her being in the likely Best Picture frontrunner, yes, I said it, more on Best Picture in a minute, that really helps her, and she has a really great narrative behind her as well, of the first ever Asian actress to win this category. So, it would be huge, but I think all of the top 3 make a convincing argument, and even to a lesser extent, the next 2. Margot Robbie also has never won an Oscar, also is a big thing, and we'll have to see how big, just how much she gets to do in this role, because I have heard some speculation that it could go supporting, but we never know. And the funny thing is, there's a part of me that's like, oh, she'll win her Oscar next year for Barbie, which is kind of a ridiculous statement, but I think it honestly could happen. And then Michelle Williams I have at number 5. Now, if she gets nominated in supporting, she's winning the Oscar. Like, that's a done deal. But as of right now, it looks like she's going to get nominated in lead. Although, honestly, she might not, because there's some really fierce competition from Viola Davis, Olivia Colman, Jennifer Lawrence. Like, it's going to be tough for her to get the nomination. I do hope her agent realizes what a terrible mistake they made to put her in lead, because in supporting, she's walking away with the Oscar, no competition. Maybe they just want to make things really, really hard for her for no reason. At any rate, I'm really surprised that Olivia Colman has moved out of a lot of people's top 5, and she's moved out of mine as well, because people really did like her when she was in. They're like, yep, Colman does it again. But then the competition is so strong, and the movie is kind of fading from the memory of a lot of people. So she's moving out. Davis also moving out, although, again, she is the face of that movie that I think could do really well. Oh, Best Actress is so tough. Why did you have to put yourself up here, Michelle Williams? Like, you're potentially robbing Viola Davis of a nomination. And then I don't even know what to do with this category. It is so, so stacked. This is definitely going to be one of the most interesting Oscar categories to watch on the day. And I'll tell you this, Best Actress is certainly way, way more stacked than Best Actor is. This category is just, first of all, congratulations, Brendan Fraser, on your Oscar. You've basically already won it. Unless they put you in supporting for no reason. But great performance, getting all these raves, that's going to happen. And then Farrell and Butler are the likely 2 and 3. And then I don't know. I really don't know after that. Calva makes sense as a 4 because apparently he's the lead of the movie. And then Adam Driver, I've heard people compare that performance to like a Denzel Washington, Roman J. Israel. Like, oh, it's a weird performance. He gets enough to do. This is a likable actor they've nominated before. Sure. I don't know what happens after that. I don't know how well After Sun's going to do. The Inspection actually seems like it could be a really interesting path for Jeremy Pope, but I don't know what to think about that. And then at the very bottom of the list, unfortunately, we do have to consider both of these options. With Will Smith, there's still a lot of debate if people are ready to move on so quickly after the slap. With some people saying it could honestly happen, and I really don't think it can. But I think it can a whole lot more than Tom Cruise, who I have very, very reluctantly decided to put in my top 10 because I just don't know who else to put in. But still, it would be absolutely crazy to me if he got nominated for this. Now, Best Director is looking really, really interesting. So, I still have Daniels and Spielberg out in front. Sarah Polley makes sense, as does Damien Chazelle. And then I have Edward Berger in the fifth spot for All Quiet, because they do really like to nominate their foreign language directors. But honestly, Aronofsky, Field, McDonough, and Prince Bythewood all make really strong, I could see any one of them contending. I almost don't know what to say. This is a really tight category. It's gonna be really, really interesting to see who gets on. But honestly, I do like my top five. I think they're really strong. And I think, you know what, I think I have a lot to say about in Best Picture, so let's just skip to that. So in the category of Best Picture, I want to start off by saying the more time passes, the more confident I am in predicting Everything Everywhere to win Best Picture. And I know it's a weird movie, and I know it's not, the sort of thing is not usually the Academy's type of tea. Trust me, I'm saying this as one of the very few people on planet Earth who was not totally blown away by this film. And yet, I have seen The Passion. I haven't seen a film with this level of passion since Parasite. And it came out early in the year, and The Passion has not gone away. It is still, people love this movie, and it's getting referenced, it's getting brought up a lot. And I think everybody who sees it just falls in love with it. And even if it's not traditional Academy fare, even if Academy voters who watched it initially, early in the year, thought it was weird, they have more time to revisit and talk it over with other people. And as of this moment, I get that not everyone is talking about it as the frontrunner, and that's good, because you never want to be the frontrunner this early in the race. And right now, everyone's looking at The Fabelmans, because, it won the Audience Award at TIFF, and it's Spielberg, and it's a really, really Beatty movie. The Fabelmans, anyone who says Fabelmans is winning Best Picture, good for you for thinking that, but this movie is literally following in the footsteps of Belfast last year. Remember when Belfast premiered and everyone was like, oh, Best Picture is over? I didn't fall for it then, and I'm not falling for it now. Now, I could see something like Women Talking coming up and being almost the Power of the Dog of last year, where people are like, oh, this is the artistic one, that this is the one that we really like, that has something to say. And ultimately, that ends up falling by the wayside too, and Everything Everywhere is the coda. The one that came out early in the year that everyone wrote off because it's not the Academy's cup of tea. Sorry, I forgot how to talk. But now I think the worst thing to happen to Everything Everywhere is if it overperforms on nomination day, which it could. This movie could get the most nominations just because there's so many crafts and there's so many performances. Conceivably, this could get a ton of nominations, and that can hurt it if there starts to be a backlash against it. But as of right now, I feel really comfortable predicting Everything Everywhere to win, although I think Women Talking, there's also a narrative to be made for that film because of everything I've heard about it. And then, Fabelmans, Babylon, both seem likely contenders. Banshees of Inisherin has gone up quite a bit because that movie's gotten great reviews. I have The Whale, I have All Quiet on the Western Front, and here's where things get interesting. I still have Woman King getting nominated, but I think it's going to be close. And the fact that Top Gun Maverick is also there, I feel really weird. I don't dislike Top Gun Maverick, and yet it still seems crazy to me that everyone else is saying it's a lock to get a Best Picture nomination. I don't know, maybe it's because the movie doesn't have much of a message, it doesn't have much of something to say, it's just a fun action movie, and I don't know, I feel like it I don't know. I'm making my peace with it. And then I also have Till in the 10th slot. That's just what makes sense to me. And some of you might be saying, you have Till predicted to get a Best Picture nomination, but you're not predicting it to win Best Actress. Yeah, I'm kind of hedging my bets a little bit. I'm aware that these two things don't fully make sense, but I'm not really sure what's going to happen in either category, and I'm sort of just trying to test the waters and see what sticks. And then everything else, I don't know, man. RRR, I have that at number 15 just because after the announcement was made that it wasn't India's submission, there were people really going hard for it and people really trying to well, it can get a Best Picture nomination now. We'll show you. If that movie got a Best Picture nomination after being rejected by India for International Feature, that would be one of the coolest things that the Academy has ever done. But I'm not... I don't want to actually predict it. It's probably not going to happen. And I will say, as I'm recording this, reviews are dropping for Pinocchio, and I am seeing people saying, ooh, this could be a Best Picture contender. And I don't want to jinx it. I do not want to jinx it. I've been burned too many times before by thinking an animated film might contend in Best Picture, and it never works out. But if it's going to happen, I'm not going to be the one to jinx it. I'm just going to sit back and see what happens. So, I believe that's everything. Also, my voice is really starting to go, and I have to act in a play tonight, so I better stop talking. Thank you very much for watching this, and I will see you all next time.